I'm thrilled to introduce Colleen Magarity to the Lacrosse Virtual Summit. Colleen and I met when she was an assistant coach at Colorado, where she and Hannah Nielsen were the assistants to Ann Elliott in the inaugural, 3 or 4 years of the CU program, and really helped build the foundation of that. Colleen won multiple national championships at Northwestern, played this past summer as a pro, and she runs a club called Triple H, and she's as well as the head lacrosse coach at Penn Charter and the athletic director at Penn Charter. Colleen is a total student of the game. The first time I met her, I remember talking lacrosse, and she was like taking notes, which I think is like unreal. So I love that because I do the same thing. But anyways, Colleen, welcome to the show. Really fired up to hear you talk about team defense.
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I've got a lot to share about team defense, and it's obviously specific to everyone's individual teams, but I'm going to kind of go with what we usually do at Penn Charter, what I do at my club team, and what I did at Northwestern and Colorado. So those were my foundational parts of my life that, that I resonate towards, but everybody might have something that they want to change or fix. And I'll kind of go over the alternatives as well, but mainly go over man-to-man defense and just the way I was taught it from Kelly and Monty Hiller, the way I coached it with Ann Elliott, and the way I now coach it as a head coach myself.
Awesome. And then you're going to touch a little bit on, from a recruiting perspective, how you can leverage these concepts towards at times it's high school, you're just trying to win games. At times it's club, and you want to have a good program, but you also want to help kids get looks. Yeah.
So at the end, I'm going to go over what coaches want to see directed towards club environment, because it's completely different with 40-minute games, no timeouts, running clock. So you need to make the best of what you have.
Excellent. All right. So whenever you're ready.
All right. So I'm going to go in and share my team defense presentation. Okay. So we kind of went over what we just talked about here. Can you just see my presentation? Is that what you guys see right now?
Yeah. I see.
Okay. I wasn't sure if what I see this is.
You might want to go into the play mode so that we don't.
Where do I go to that?
There should be like somewhere. There should be a play.
Full screen.
Full screen, perhaps. No. Maybe up and under file, it might say play slideshow or something. No, keep going. Go to view, maybe.
View, enter full screen.
Nope.
That's better than before, so we'll start there.
Okay.
It's fine.
It's fine.
I'm not that tech savvy as Jamie. You taught me a lot. But we're going to go with team defense, man-to-man. We're going to go through the terminology, then pressuring, on ball, the adjacents, the backside, and angles, and I'll kind of elaborate through each of those 4 points as we go. And then jumping the double, which is a huge thing for the way I was taught defense, the way we play defense, and just all around man-to-man defense. And then sliding, which is all different types of sliding. When you hold slides, when you go early, I'll go over a few different options. And then the last thing we'll do is covering cutters. So getting to the first point, just pretty fundamental. Everyone's going to have different terms, but as long as your whole team is on the same page with your terms, it makes a huge difference. And I didn't learn these specific terms until I went to Northwestern, and they've stayed consistent with me, obviously at Colorado, and then now coaching my own teams. So when you're on ball, you just got ball. Okay. It's just pretty simple. When you're next to the ball, you're hot. So the girls to the left and to the right of the ball, if you can see on the screen, are both hot. I'm going to get into angles later. So the ball carrier, if she's facing one direction, that hot person towards the direction she's facing might be out a little bit farther. And then the person where if her back's towards the defender on the other side, she might be in a little bit. But both are hot. So you both are hot. One might just be ready and the other one might be in a little bit, depending on which way that girl is facing with the ball. If you're 2 away from the ball, you're just 2. You're the second slide, and you're actually kind of the captain, the quarterback of generating the slides. So you are 2 away, And once again, there are two twos. So, if you get beat the wrong way, that two person is still the two person, even though they're going the different direction. So both two spots have to be ready. And the last thing is backside. Really important that you just have your body opening up towards the ball, and you're not just facing your girl that's on the backside who's important at that moment. So you really have to be opening up because you have to be ready to crash the middle. Usually the backside people are those that are going to come up with the ground ball or crash into the middle and make the play. So if you just have your back towards the ball the whole time and you're on the backside, you won't be able to rotate as fast. So first thing, we're into ball pressure. This obviously causes the slides to trigger. Ball pressure is probably the hardest possible thing as a defender because you have this fear of getting beat. And it took me like a year at Northwestern to really go out there and not be scared to get beat. So you can get all the way out there and just know that your teammates have your back. So that's the cool thing about team defense is, if you get beat, then someone's right there for you. Then it makes you go out there the next time a little bit farther. And at Northwestern, we would pressure out like way past the 12. You'd be running around like crazy. For my high school team, I will probably pressure out 5 to 10 yards, like right outside the 12. And then we're going to watch a lot of clips from the University of Michigan's defense, which is very similar to the way Colorado played and Northwestern played it as well, just to see their ball pressure as well. When you go out and run at your attacker, you want to slow them down to start, and then you're going to force them to a specific direction, whether you go forcing to the outside or you're forcing them to the middle. That is going to be very dependent on your team. So there will be games where we force to the outside all the time, or we're going to force the outside and then force them right back to the middle. So that's where something you can, tweak your team defense. For the most part, for my high school, I'll force outside to start and then try and force them back into the middle to get the slide to come from the middle. So right here, we're just going to go and watch a clip here of just some good ball pressure. So right now, this is Michigan versus Ohio State. She starts to step up. You can see that she's a little tentative in the beginning, but now she gets right at her and slides. I'm going to repeat this real quick. So she forces her down the wing to start, and you can see this middle girl is getting ready to go over and be that hot slide, especially now because the on-ball girl sees that she doesn't have anyone to her left. Okay, so she has no help to her left. She's got to get this girl back to the middle. And right away, they make a slide. The other girl covers. That's what you want, I think they call it a foul on Michigan there, but in my mind, I think that's a charge. But I always go for the defense. We're going to continue with that. Oops. Like I just said, the hardest thing for far-out pressure is the fear to get beat, but you almost, and it takes getting beat to understand that helps the defense. So sometimes getting beat is actually what you want because then you have the opportunity to get a back check because your slide's there to slow them down, and then you come right at them from behind. So right here. Go back to it and I'll continue with it. Okay, so this girl forces her and then comes up with a back check right there. You can see she goes all the way out at her. She's on her, she's on her, she's on her. She goes out, she gets beat. Then right away, slide comes, slows her down, comes up with the back check. Now you have got a perfect cause turnover heading the other way.
That's awesome. I heard a great quote from a friend of mine who's going to be speaking later, and he talks a lot about pressure defense and box lacrosse. And he says, everyone's a passer until you make him into a dodger. And that's really exactly what you're talking about here.
Right. The goal to the man-to-man defense that we did at Northwestern and that I've continued is just to make the other team play frantic. Where if you kind of set in, you allow them to like set up plays and kind of be a little more casual, and you're just hoping that they make a mistake or an overthrow, where this type of defense, you have the ability to like go out there and cause it to happen, which I'm going to get into a little bit more later.
Love it.
So pressuring out, it takes a lot of athleticism. You have to be fast. You go about them in the like correct angles. And like I said, it's just getting them to go in the direction you want them to go. There's sometimes where you have the younger kids and we play this pressure defense and they'll just run right at them. That's not the high pressure man-to-man that you're trying to teach. So you want to try and run at them in a way that gets them to go the specific direction, because that's now your whole entire team is set up like, oh, the hot side is coming from the left. The second side is coming from the left. The whole backside starts to drop in, which, if they get beat the other way, then it's really, really hard to, adjust as a defensive group. So did you have a question, Jane?
Nope.
So I'm going to talk about this one again. A lot of good clips from Michigan here for my presentation. So she's on her once again there. Same type of clip as before, but she has a decision here whether to force her down or to bring her back to the middle. So she's bringing that pressure out there, and then is like, and I'm going to go into this more with the sliding. The more you can avoid this low person, so this girl from the left of her, to make this slide, the better. Because then you get into shooting space, and I'll get into this farther in our presentation, but so she sees that like if I force her down to the inside, now we're getting that slide from low, and then the crease people start to, really work that two-man game from behind. So if you can get that slide from the middle, it's a little bit better. So you see that the person two away now, all the way on the backside, is getting ready. She sends this hot slide over, and she covers the middle. Now you come up with another great cause turnover and a back check right there. Okay, so wow, don't mind my my spelling here. So the pressure continued. So I'm going on the angles with the way the defense approaches the attacker is huge. So whether you're going to come up and you're going to step up your right foot, or whether you're going to come up and step up your left foot, on which way you're going to force them, also plays into the angles that the attacker is facing. Okay, so I talked about that, of which way the hot slide is going to be more triggered and which way the, is it going to be on the left or the right? So you start to see like, oh, my attacker's facing a specific direction, then that adjacent can start to really step up their pressure, and that's where interceptions happen. So obviously if like someone's just swinging the ball around in 7-on-7, they're naturally going to start to face their hips towards where they're going to make the next pass. Then that person going to start to step out and make a risk, take that leap to go get an interception, where the backside adjacent might step in. So here you can see a very good job by the defense, just reading which way the attacker's facing. They're just getting the ball around nice and casual. She looks to face that way, boom, there's your interception. Where the other side, where it's coming from right away, might take a step in. So you see you have two hot slides technically. That one takes a step out farther because that's the way the angle the attacker is facing. Vice versa. The back, you see the back of the attacker, I'm going to step in towards the 8. Okay.
It's the same. It's very similar to men's lacrosse. You pressure in a lot of people think when you pressure adjacents, you mean both of them, but it's really pressuring in the direction they're going, with the backside adjacent getting it.
Yeah, huge difference between playing with a backer and you're in a zone, or if you need the ball back, obviously you're going to lock off both adjacents. In a normal man-to-man 7-on-7, it's all about reading the attack, where I'd say that's the biggest thing, especially teaching high schoolers, to get them to understand, is like they think about their role and that's it, and they're like, all right, I'm a hot slide, I need to step out, rather than I'm a hot slide, but now I also am a hot slide where the ball's not facing. you know, so just getting them to read a little bit farther.
And that hot slide on the backside adjacent will turn into kind of a second slide at times too, right? Because they're going to
Exactly.
collapse.
Yeah. They also now might be the second slide to the middle because, you know, that adjacent person might have cut through and the backside's farther. So it's, you know, it's obviously defense, as most defenders know, you can't just like write it up. It's not going to ever happen the exact way you practice it, but it, you know, you just have to be ready for all different situations. So the angles behind are really, really specific to your team. So we would always pressure out really, really far behind. Because you have that end line as an extra defender, but you also have times where it's just you and the girl behind. So you're like, I can't go out and pressure far behind if everyone else is far up. So you need to start to angle your, I'll talk about it more after you watch this clip because this defender does a really good job of noticing that she doesn't have the help. So this ball goes behind here. Okay, she's on her and then keeps her on to this side. Now forces her back down, just like that, making her force a bad pass. So she could have stepped all the way above her. Here we go here. She could have like approached her and let her kept going all the way to her right hand behind the net. But instead she kind of like cuts the field in half and gets more in front of her, forces her back up, then forces her back down. When you're by yourself, you kind of want to play this like game of getting them to go one way and you keep tunneling them to the corner of the field because you have no slide kind of with you right now. The only one you have is that person to the defender's right side, which can come from top down, but she's also a threat as well. So until that second slide sends that hot slide, she might need to play it safe and really not force her back behind. Where if she had someone else behind with her, she might angle this a little bit better and keep her behind the net with the other person.
Where do you like to slide from when the ball is being dodged from behind? Top down, across the crease, from the middle?
So we were taught at Northwestern, and it's the way I've been doing it as well, is across the crease on the one side. So when there's two righties behind, across the crease on the left side behind the net, and force them up on this side. Does that make sense? So you always be forcing them to their left hand. If there's a lefty behind with the righty, then both are forcing down and going across the crease.
Okay, got it.
So, I mean, there's just not as many, like, you know, there's few lefties sometimes in high school girls lacrosse, and or the team's not even playing their lefty behind. So it ends up being two righties behind. So the one side I'll force down to get that slide across the crease. The other side I'll force out to get them to go to their left hand.
And obviously in women's lacrosse, you can go through the crease, but in girls lacrosse, you can't, right? So
exactly. So that's huge. The one benefit for me is I couldn't go in the crease in college when I played. I couldn't do it at Colorado, and now I'm back in high school, so I still can't. So it's great that college can't, but I haven't had to. I've only done it in the pros, so, and it's awesome. I wish that
we could.
I played defense. We can run through the crease, but
you'll still pressure behind the net, though, despite the fact that you could get stuck. You know,
it becomes more anticipation. So I always say that if like you can be there when the ball's there, go for it and like anticipate and step up. But if they catch it behind, like before you anticipated, I would just stay safe and kind of play home.
Right. Okay, got it.
Okay, so getting into the next part of the slide. So we kind of just talked about the hot slide coming from the middle and that being a little bit more, you know, set up. Like you have time to be like, she's dodging down the wing. You force her back to the middle, sending the hot slide, sending the second slide. Ideally coming from the second slide like we talked about. There are situations which it happens a lot where the wing people cut through and you can jump slide right away. That's going to come with less communication because you have to go with like your gut instinct. But we did this all the time at Northwestern. We would jump slide behind and on the wing. And I think it's the best, you know, opportunity to get a cause turnover. So you'll watch in this video. So I'm going to go right away. here. Okay, here we go. All right, just swinging it over to the wing. Wing girl right here has the ball. Ref's kind of in the way. Passes it right up top. Gets it back over. And now this wing girl is going to cut through hard. Perfect opportunity for a jump double. She just leaves her girl right away and jumps right in front of her. The girl that was on ball would ideally stay in that double team. And I think we'll get to another clip where she does. But right away, she sees, like, I can either stay with my cutter or I can go right into this girl and jam her up. So a lot of offenses cut through that wing and dodge from up top. So it's a perfect opportunity for defense to just jump that double team right on her. And that backside pack will have to slide right to the middle in case she, like, throws a lollipop pass or gets a pass right into the middle.
I love this. I try to teach this if there's men's coaches on here. You need to be able to slide off clear throughs. If you watch women's lacrosse, generally I see this happen a lot, and it's great defense because it's the closest man.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you want to slide at the last possible moment from the closest man? And the clear through is usually going right into the middle where you should have coverage anyways.
Exactly. They're going to a place where everyone is.
Right.
So making it easier that way. And then it's the easiest, like, way to get into double team rather than, like, running after people. And then now you're running into this space. Like, it's just the spacing to create that perfect double team is ideal, and you just need to time it up. Say that girl cut through the middle a little bit earlier, you can just communicate then to that girl that's on ball to force her right back to the middle. So she might be forcing her down the alley at the start. That girl maybe didn't time up the jump. You didn't get it off. Now she just swings her right foot in front of the attacker to just drive her right back to the middle to get that slide coming across. Going as well, we talked about behind, how we pressure behind a lot at Northwestern, and I try and get my girls to pressure a lot behind. I'll get into it later in the presentation. College coaches love to see the pressure behind rather than just letting people set up and do their thing, because you have that whole end line as your extra defender. We would jump the double behind at Northwestern a lot, and I found, like, an old clip from Northwestern. You can often have those attackers step out of bounds. So you're just on them. You can even get a cause turnover with a check or charge. You got them to step out of bounds. Okay, so the ball is coming down this wing. Right here, everyone's stepping out. You can see this a little bit farther out than the other clips. Right here, comes across, jump the double. Right there, steps out of bounds. And even if she didn't step out of bounds, right when you jump that double, I'm going to go back a little bit farther. Just to show it, this person right here should kind of force her right back to that person behind instead of letting her keep going up with her right hand. So step up with your left foot, fight to get in front of her, and use that space behind where they can't score from right behind the net as your opportunity to get another double team. And you're on their hands. Hopefully they can't get a good pass off. But, I mean, I think a lot of times people are afraid to go behind, but you have such little space. Like, why not use that tiny space to make a great double team? And it's just all about angles. You can't chase them.
Yeah, totally. What do you oftentimes draw charging calls when you jump a double, step out and take a charge?
Yeah. So it's a mix between a charge and a block. Like, it depends on the ref. Refs are never that great in girls lacrosse anyways, but so it's the timing. So if you get there like a little bit too late, you're going to get a block. If you get there one step too soon, you're going to get a charge. I mean, not too soon, but one step earlier, you're going to get that charge call. So just timing that up. And I'll go through a drill at the end that you could do that just basically works on that, just working on literally jumping in front of that attacker, dodging from up top, and working on those angles, setting your feet and taking that charge. Next thing we're going to do sliding from the 2 spot. Should always send the hot slide in an ideal situation. That's the next thing that is hard for high schoolers. It's hard in college too, but getting the slide from the 2 person is the ideal situation. So sending it from the second, sending the hot. That way that second slide's right in the passing lane to come up with the interception, and you just know you have your back to go. Because the hot slide is sometimes too late. They're like, should I go or should I not? Because my girl's gonna be wide open. But if you have the, confidence that your teammate that's in 2 has your back, now you're just doing everything 100%. You're not in between, like covering your girl and going to make a slide.
I've got a question on this, Colleen. It seems like because of the 3-second rule, that there's a lot of times girls are more worried about getting called for 3 seconds than getting in. And what's your take on that? Because to me, it seems like, we don't want silly 3-second calls where people are just hanging out in there, but I'd rather take a few of those than give up a lot of wide open people right in front of the net.
Oh, 100%. I always say I'd take the 3-second call any day. So and it's just, especially now, because it's like minor. What before it was like an 8 meter, and you'd be like, oh my goodness, like this is terrible. But now it's like minor and off to the side. So I'm like, all right, take the 3 seconds all the time. Just be in there. I'd rather them be in there communicating and trying to make something happen than like glued to the girl and not part of a team defense. So we'll go through. It's a really, really hard slide from the girls that are set up on the crease with the girls behind when they're dodging from up top to not be in shooting space. So that's why you really want to be patient. Like it's so easy. Like, oh, the girl from up top is beat a little bit, and a lot of young girls will jump and slide low to high, and they're in shooting space every single time. So just be a little bit patient on that slide, because hopefully your defender can actually get them back to the middle. They can catch up and get back to the middle or force them out a little bit farther. So we'll go through this clip first. She does a really good job, this low person. You can see that she almost goes.
She kind of shows like she's going to go, but doesn't go.
And then holds. Yep, and no shooting space. So it's really good patience. Like she almost does, but if she did one step earlier, first of all, the angle's bad for this. Hopefully she takes that bad angle shot.
Right.
The goalie saves it. Now if you go, you're in shooting space and you're putting that girl on a hash that she can come in and take a righty 8 meter. Yeah. So it's just having that like a little bit of patience where I know you want to go help your defender, but just have that patience to hold for one more second. Because also if you go super early, they can just pop it right over your head to that girl cutting from the crease.
Hey, play that one more time. I got a question for you about that, the way this adjacent player shows and slides. Have you ever heard, Kelly was one time talking about how if you, and pause it right now, you see how she's like not squared up? Kelly talked about if you don't square up to the defender too, when you get sideways to your own man, that you're less likely to be called. Like one of the things the refs are looking for is like, because sometimes they can't tell the angle, but they can tell if you're squared up to the dodger that you're more likely to get a shooting space call. Have you found that to be true also?
Yep, and it's kind of preference. So that person is not squared up facing away from the goal. I actually sometimes would face the other way.
To the middle?
To the middle, and that way I can see on my like peripheral, my left-hand side, if my attacker slips in, and just come up with the interception or, the check that way. And then you're almost even more so out of shooting space.
Mm-hmm. And your stick can be if you're facing the middle, your stick can kind of be
exactly. This way she's kind of, stick is kind of a little bit behind you, and you need to like kind of, rotate your body in a little bit different of a harder angle. Or if you get your back towards it, it's just hard. You just need to like find that time to like switch around real quick. Now you're avoiding shooting space. And I feel like you can come up with a easier ground ball because your body's going right to the middle.
Yep. Smart. We have a question when you have a second. I'm curious how you teach your defenders to defend alley dodgers with regard to their stick position. I teach them to force girls down the alley to reduce their shooting angle, keep them out of the middle. But I'm curious of the best way to teach their stick position. Do you tell them to match sticks, keep the stick on their backside, and when they ultimately roll back or just whatever is natural?
That's a good question. So it comes down to what you want to do with your team defense. So do you want to always force the outside so that way the slides are always, to the outside? Or do you want to force them back to the middle? So if you get your team ready, I typically slow them down, force to the outside, then I fight to kind of bring them back to the middle if my people are there. So like if I have slides ready. If I don't, I'll just keep pushing them to a bad angle shot. So it's very situational. So think if they're farther than I would even go like the first inside hash, keep them to the outside. But if you're like kind of in the middle and they can still get a good shot off on that alley dodge, and you have all these people ready on the other side, I'd fight to get in front of them so they step and swing back to the middle, and then you have your slide right there.
So sometimes you will try to force people into where all your defensive help is, and other times, if you're kind of balanced, then you're going to try to roll them back at the elbow or something.
But I would not, it's hard because I would not teach your defense to always force to the middle because you might not have anyone there. Now you're giving them a easier shot. So I would probably, if you're teaching high school, get them to force the outside and stay one step back on their shoulder so they take a hard, bad angle shot. And then as you get better and like more chemistry on your team defense, then you have that hot person really talking to that on-ball person. Let's really try and get them back to the middle. A lot of times too, if I was that middle person sliding, say I had a teammate that, was just beat by 1 or 2 steps, I'd slide underneath them and get to the front of the girl. Now I'm in front and the on-ball defender is right behind for the back check.
Yeah, talk about that. I see that sliding angle a lot. It seems like it clearly works, but you'd have to go pretty early on that. What's
super early? So yeah, you just have to go. That's really helpful for that low defender now to not be in a place to decide, do I need to go? And they just get them. And then you just have to communicate to that on-ball defender that she's not also trying to take a step in front.
Yeah.
Because if she is, then you're both beat. Now you're both behind her and she's going in the middle. So really, really talking about keep her to the outside, having that slide from the middle, go super early and get in front. That might be something that for high school would be a little bit easier than getting those on-ball defenders to really fight to get them back, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So it takes a lot of athleticism and speed for those on-ball defenders to really, really like change up the angles of forcing them to the outside and then, driving to get them back to the middle, where if you can get your slides actually more attentive to get to the middle, now you're in a double and you're taking away the alley dodge.
Two questions on that. One is, are you less likely to get a shooting space on that slide angle?
Oh yeah, because you're not even coming from the net; you're coming from the middle.
And then the other thing is it probably important to be to press out so you have time to see it? Like you can't really slide that way if you're picking up at the 8 or even you might have to pick up just outside the 12 to be able to have the time to get
exactly. So that's why I said that the pressure is really scary for kids, but like if you do it later, then your ability to stop people is like cut in half. If you go out really, really far, you have that time like, oh, she's beat. Now you have like 2 seconds to like get the hot slide, get the second slide, where if you're beat inside the 8, it's really hard to stop someone. That's why, I mean, it seems like it's tiring and you're running all over the place, but you're giving actually your defense time to communicate and make the proper adjustments. Where we watched that first clip where getting beat is the best thing, because if you get the slide from the hot person, that girl that got beat is getting the back check 9 out of 10 times. Because now that on-ball person forgot about, I mean, the girl with the ball forgot about the original defender because she had a slide that stopped her, in her tracks. So you have that attacker kind of stopped her feet, and then you get a back check.
And it's back to one of the first things you said, which is ball pressure, so that when you do get out there and get beat, you can't get beat so clean that they can see the field. You got to get beat in a way that you can maintain a little bit of ball pressure. And if you don't get a trail check, at least you've got the threat of that so that they can't feed it, at will.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you don't want to get beat for the attacker to get a shot off. You want to get beat for the attacker to make a decision. So, you know what I mean? So if you get beat, now the attacker's like, oh, do I keep going or do I jam this pass in the middle? And then they start kind of running around, which, makes things get a little bit more hectic, where if you're getting beat right inside the 8, that's a shot. So I think that timing and that pressure, where I know it's a little scarier, but the farther out you pressure, the easier it is.
Awesome.
You can see here on this next slide, they jump the double and then force a bad pass. So it's, once again, she's almost beat, but now they're right there. She gets fire. She knows that there's going to be 2 people on her. For a second, the girl's kind of open, but the backside's so ready. 1 there. They're all ready for that missed pass, or you hope that attacker that's about to catch the ball from the Dodger has to look up for a second and you just hold your ground. She's going to check herself if you just stay patient, get your stick up, and you're ready. We talked about this before, but those backside people coming up with that ground ball and the crash for the turnover is huge. So as you get playing against better teams, they're going to make the first pass or get by the person with a little bit more speed. You really need to come up with the final play, like get the final back check or get the ground ball that's on the ground, or, be right there. So it's easy, obviously, to jump the double and come up with the cause turnover right away. But it's when they get past that part where the backside becomes super important. And you almost want to make them think something's open when it's not. It's right here. Look, and you can see that we're like all the way out, I mean, almost at the restraining line. So their pressure is, really, really far out. So is the adjacent. We're going for a slide right there. They think they're open, coming up with those checks right down there. We'll go back a little bit again. See it here. Now all these people see right away, oh, they're going to throw it right to that middle girl because she's open, because that's where the slide came off of. So those are those 2s and the backside all crashing because the ball's being thrown in the middle. So your girl's not doing anything anymore. So having that backside crash is huge. You'll come up with a lot of checks, a lot of ground balls, more than you think.
Put that one back again.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, there is no backside low girl. A lot of times there's somebody on the backside sort of goal line, just, by the angle there.
Right.
They got carried over a little bit, but would you say
they also have 1, 2, 3, 4, they have 6 people above the GLE.
Yeah. I was just going to make a point that generally speaking, I remember hearing Kelly say this also, that the low backside player is pivotal for making the play that you're talking about, even though they're not situated where they could do it here. Mm-hmm. But that low backside player can just be like a free safety, just breaking stuff up constantly.
For sure. And I would even, and in this situation, this person all the way on the other side needs to really, really come in as well in case, like, the other girl slips in. Just everyone on the backside needs to just literally focus on the middle. I remember at Northwestern, I'd constantly be like focused on my girl kind of on what she's going to do on the backside. And Ann Elliott was like, you just have to focus on the middle. The moment the play is about to happen, forget about everything except for the middle. And the moment I started to just like turn my head and look at the middle, I came up with so many more ground balls, so many more just like checks or deflections, because you need to score from the middle. They're trying to get the ball in the middle. So like my girl that's standing on the backside is not doing anything anymore. And we were athletic enough at Northwestern that if they threw it farther out, we have the time to run out there, get set, restart our defense. Where, you know what I mean, they'd rather them throw it to a wing and set up the wing dodge than score off a middle pass.
It's awesome. We got some questions. You ready?
Yeah.
Talking about pressure, I'm a college team with a small roster, 1 or 2 midi subs max. Do you adjust your D and pinch more so that the slides are shorter? Or
So that's a good question. So we played mainly our 4 low defenders. So like the low defenders, they should be able to hack it. They should be able to, you know, work their butt off for those 30 seconds to a minute every single time they come down there. If you don't have the rotating midi lines, the midis are the ones that are exhausted, that might, like, you know, not have the energy when you come back. So if you want to rotate it up a little bit between like setting back 1 or 2 times and then going back to high pressure, that might preserve your energy a little bit. And it might change up the looks you get for the attackers you're playing against. So if they don't know what's coming every single time, that might be helpful for your defense. So that way it gives your middies a little bit of rest. If you have a couple low pressure, you do the same concepts, but maybe around the 12, in between the 12 and the 8. And then a couple where you're above the 12. And maybe a couple where you're always pressuring behind, or a couple where you're not. Kind of just helps get those middies a little bit of a breather for a smaller roster. But we kept the same 4 defenders in the whole game pretty much at Northwestern, and then we had 3 or 4 lines. So those middies would get those breaks that they needed.
Got it. Another question here is, can you, when you're referring to people in different spots, can you use your cursor to highlight so that they can see who you're referring to? And by the way, you can use the draw. You can go, if you lift your cursor up, you'll see the drawing opportunity. So if you want to circle and
okay, I didn't know that. That's a very good question. I'm learning my technology things. Yeah, I can definitely try to do that. Or Jamie, if you can go on it too, could you do that or no?
I can't actually. No, I can't.
I'll figure it out.
And then
if anyone has questions, like I said, that they didn't get from the clip I'm talking about, I'll give my email, my phone number. Happy to talk about anything with anybody afterwards.
The last question here so far is, can you go through how to teach these slides with less athletic players than at Northwestern? Will they be as effective or get the defense out of position to give the attack open options inside the 8? So the question is, can you do this with less athletic players?
Yeah, you definitely can. It just really, really relies on those angles and the timing. Because you almost like, it's literally about setting up the timing. So you don't need to be like super fast and like, you know, go out there and stay with someone the whole entire time. You just have to time up the slide perfectly to your speed. So that becomes huge, is just getting your defenders to learn when, all right, this is my time to step up and approach. So figuring out like the jump slide, I might need to go a little bit earlier or not, you know, so just trying to teach those angles and the timing. With the drills at the end, I can kind of go over something that can help you. And I would, at Northwestern, obviously you saw you're pressuring like to the restraining line. I'd pressure around the 12. So you're not like running, getting gassed, and then not having the energy to make the correct angled slide. So it literally just comes down to like the way you approach and the timing. The more athletic you get and the faster, the farther out you can do things. And
you're going to try to like get matchups where you can too, right? You're not going to put your slowest girl on their fastest.
Yeah, exactly.
It's possible that happens, but you're going to try to, you know, figure that out. So
100%. And I would also you can try and trigger some of that really, really far out pressure, vice versa, with the slower person on the team. So you might not start your pressure, or like someone might be farther in with a person that's like Speedy Gonzalez on the other team. I'm not going to like run out at them, making it super hard for 3 people to even cover that one person. Any other questions?
Not yet. We'll come back to it.
Okay. Next thing we're gonna go over is covering cutters. So we did a lot of dodging, sliding off the dodge. Ball gets behind. A lot of the times, you know, you have to cover those cutters, and you want to be on the correct side of them. Covering cutters is the hardest thing with a pressure defense, because you're so consumed with like getting your second slide and being in the right body positioning. So then just being able to open up, know that you're hot, but also covering a cutter is really difficult. I'm speaking a lot about Ann Elliott, but she taught me defense at Northwestern, and obviously I coached with her. But she was like, just try and get on their stick side. Getting on their stick side is surprisingly super hard for defenders. They often are covering cutters, allowing them to also then catch, you know, then their stick's just wide open. Just be on whatever hand they have their stick in, be right on that. So we'll go through one where they're on the correct side covering the cutter, and one, I think the next one we see where they're not. So ball goes down here. See, this girl's on her. Yes, she's on her, but now she's trailing her and leaving her stick wide open. So she's going to just catch and score. So I'll kind of go back. So if these people, can you see my cursor now?
Yes.
Okay. So if these people, do you see how they're like one step behind them? They need to be in front of them to like make it hard for them to cut through you, especially when the ball's back behind here. So if they're in front of them with their body angled so that they can, like their back's almost towards the sideline, so that way they can step right in front of them. Mm-hmm.
What are you allowed to do as far as, you know, you talk about rerouting them and jamming them up. I mean, sometimes you see people playing defense on cutters kind of almost like they have the ball with a little bit of a bump. Like where do you draw the line in high school and college as far as the way you can do that or not?
I know that's really, really tough, but I just think that the closer you get, like you can kind of almost be on them, but with your head on a swivel. The biggest thing is your head on a swivel, because you're also might be hot.
Yeah.
So if you're just focused on the cutter as if you're on ball, you're missing like the ball, and you might miss the hot slide and the 2 slide. But your girl didn't get the ball. You did a great job like not letting her get it, but it doesn't matter. They scored.
Right.
So you have to be on them. I mean, it's just like basketball. You have to see the man in your ball. Like I keep my hand on the person, and then just like, you know what I mean? I keep my hand like on the cutter so I like can feel my girl, and then I open up my head. So you're pretty much playing basketball defense. So you can like see the man and I should say woman. You should see the woman and the ball. So right here again, we'll go through this. She just lets her slip in, stick free. Where if she was on the other side of her, covering that stick, that's not a goal.
So I got a question on that. So one of the hardest things to cover is the right-handed backdoor cut from the right-handed feed.
Yep.
So if they put it in their right hand, are you actually going to, if the cutter is sort of cutting backside, and, you know, that lead pass is very hard to defend, right? So,
very hard to defend.
But if you try to over defend that, then you're going to defend their ability to like catch it in front of you, lefty. Where do you draw the line there?
So I'd rather them try and thread a needle pass with the hope of like my backside trying to help than just to catch the ball right in front of them.
So force them backside.
I'd rather force them to like thread a needle. Yeah. Cause then you also, it's the same thing with the whole forcing of back to the middle. Everyone else is behind there too. Yep. So I'd rather get it into like a jammed cluster in the middle than an open alley just with your stick now you're going to goal. But once again, it's super hard. And hopefully when you're covering that, you could get a deflection just by having your stick up. The amount of girls that don't play in the middle with their stick up, trying to like just get on their stick, you can get like 1,000 more knockdowns. Going back over to the walling of the cutters. So they did a really good job in this video right here. You see this back side. Oh, this one's the same thing. Sorry, that's the next video. I'll replay this one. Same thing, just another clip of not being on the correct side. Here, comes right off of it hard. She goes right behind her, but she's almost, this defender is almost trying too hard to like try and get in front of her cutter. Where if she stayed right behind her, she'd go right into where she's going. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's hard because the ball was on one side and it was being
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So if but she's trying to cover her always from standing behind her. Where I'd rather like have them almost like in front of me.
And that way run through you.
Yeah. They have to reroute their cut. And then it's just, that's really, really difficult thing to defend, but just trying to get on their stick right there. Don't even step too far over there and just really, really try and get that step back to the left side. That's a hard one though.
Yeah.
The next thing. This is the correct one. So this girl is asking for the ball in the wrong hand, but she stays correctly on her stick. So Rutgers girls, if she put it in her left hand, now she's open. Does that make sense? But she keeps it in that right hand, and the Michigan girl's able to get a back check. So she stays right on her stick. Go again.
That's how Canadians cut. Strong hand, stick to the middle.
And even to start, I would hear like, see her angle is like kind of slightly on the side of her. Like I would even step up in front of her a little bit more so that she has to try and go through you. That way you're trying to go through you a little bit, especially these two. And it kind of comes to this person up top here to help communicate where the ball is.
Right.
So she can kind of be like, turn, turn, turn. She's not doing anything. And if they throw really, really high up to her, you have the time to get back out there. Covering cutters is one of the hardest things.
Do you ever try to anticipate, like, you know, there's usually righty feeders that rather sweep to their right and cut this way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
that clip you showed a minute ago, it was a righty feeder sweeping behind, and she overplayed one side, but the girl probably wasn't going to feed it lefty, you know.
Exactly. So that's why I was saying it's like knowing what hand the person is behind, like,
yeah,
that defender almost fought too hard to get to a spot where she and read the attacker. She didn't even look like she was feeding at all. She was running.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just the next step up of as a defender to be like, do I need to fight to do this, or should that play not even going to happen? I get it. You're like eliminating that first play, but just trying to read what, and that comes tendencies and knowing your opponent where you don't, you know, high school, we scout a little bit, not a ton. But in college, you scout all the time. And you're like, this person tendency, what she fed one time out of the 12 on that side. So knowing that she's probably going to come to the other side. You know, so like just knowing what that attacker behind the net is doing. Like, all right, she's not going to feed this side. I might need to angle my body this way. And hopefully during the week at practice, you practice those reps. Like, all right, this girl might cut this way and come right back this way. So just getting those angles down. On the backside as well, that just goes to your like head on a swivel and your the way you wall it. This is what I talked about, like angling your body, and you kind of brought up the whole not covering just your girl.
Mm-hmm.
So ball's opposite, so they want to open up their bodies to make those like cutters go through the middle of them. So this person should like come around this side and that person should come around that side. So that way these cutters like filter through the middle and you just call like first one, second one. Rather than picking each other up. And they do a good job of this.
And that's called building a wall?
Yeah, you wall it on the stack. So now they're like, that other person, her right here, she's doing a good job communicating to that person. Like she's opening up her body and going to make them go right in front of them. A little bit of wall. They're switching here. Right away there. Then and it's just whether your body positioning is, so I think they're almost two facing the cutter where they can open up a little bit more to have that head on a swivel.
Yeah.
Whatever allows your head to be able to see peripheral vision is the ideal positioning on the backside. So if you need to open up a little bit more than others, you know, some people, you know, can see peripheral better than others. So just having those bodies in a position to, you know, see the ball and allow those cutters to kind of come in between them. But yeah, we would call it a wall at Northwestern. And that way, instead of trying to like cover your girl super, super tight, you would open up a little bit and take a step back. So instead of like, all right, we were doing this far out pressure, you're always pressuring, but the moment you become on the backside and you're covering a wall or a stack, a situation where they're just decoys for the dodger, you just need to take a step back towards the middle. Don't need to fight through it. That way, that person needs to get to the middle to score. They're going to cut to you. And then you step up and get on their stick and jam up their hands.
And zone up their picking and their exchanges, just play sides.
Yeah, play sides. You don't need to, you no longer have, I don't have 10 the whole entire time anymore. You know, you're just on the sides. I got first, second, third. They might cycle right back to that stack. You forget about who you just covered. Now you're going to talk first, second, third, whether it be 2 people in the stack or 3 people. They just have to communicate. So, and it could be like 3 people. So you'd have 2 people on one side and 1 person on the other side in the wall. Does that make sense? So the person that would take the first cutter will be the side with the 2 people on the wall.
Yep.
And then it becomes 1-on-1. And then it doesn't really matter whoever's closer. So get to a couple of drills here. I don't know what we are on time because I want to get to what coaches can see. So do you want me to do the drills or what coaches can see? Or like they want to see?
We got time, so
Okay.
Just go ahead and let's bang through the drills and we'll get through questions and recruiting and all of that.
Okay, so the first one is the umbrella drill. And this is a really hard drill that your kids probably wouldn't like. Okay, I just learned this, so bear with me on this whiteboard here. Here's a crease. You're going to have an attacker up here, an attacker over here, an attacker over here. And then you're going to have, and this is going to be a defender right here. Okay? So the coach is going to be, just get a squiggly line. Right here, that's your coach. That's my coach right there. So the coach will throw the ball out, either this person first or this person. It doesn't really matter, okay? But what they're going to do is this defender is going to go out and approach and play a one-on-one with the first person they throw it to. Right away after they play that one-on-one, the coach will throw the next ball out to the next attacker. So this defender here is going to play 3 one-on-ones. So they play a one-on-one, then they play a one-on-one, and then they go back and play a one-on-one. After each one, they retreat back to the middle to get ready so that they can approach that attacker in a way from their like running out from the middle. The last one-on-one, the coach will throw out a ground ball, and it's just a contested ground ball between you and the last attacker. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. What was my next drill on there? Let me go back to it.
You have to end share. Yeah, there you go.
2v3 drill on both slides. This is solely focusing on the first and second slide. We do a lot with 2v3, meaning there's going to be 3 defenders and 2 attackers, just so you don't get so tied up in like, oh, I don't want to leave this person. It just like puts you down into, I have to slide every single time. So here's your attacker. Here's your attacker. Here's your attacker.
Colleen,
I mean, use your defender.
use the thick squiggly line for your D. It'll be quicker.
Okay. Thick squiggly line. I think this is it. A thick squiggly here.
Right next to it. Yeah, there you go.
D.
You can just make a dot.
D. Oh, perfect. And then D, and you can have your third defender be in the middle, or you can have your third defender be down here. Your choice, okay? So the attack has the ball, and they're gonna literally just throw the ball up top here. I should change my line. And they can cut through, okay? And you're gonna jump the double. Does that make sense? So they dodge, they cut through, you can jump the double right there. And this person right here is just talking to the person that's jumping the double. So they're not even covering anybody. So they're the two slide. So ball starts up right on the wing. They can pass up. They cut through. They look to double. This third defender is just the communicator. They're the second, or they're down here. So they're either saying go, 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 or they're, you know what I mean? They're communicating. They're picking up the person. So it's just 2v3, just staying on one side, working on sending the first hot slide, and the second person, you're 2 away from the ball, you're just moving over. So it's just a communication piece of that, working on that second person, always saying, go, 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 go. Like, you're hot, you're hot, you're hot, go. And the reason they don't have anyone to cover is just so that they can solely focus on that communication. Because when you're covering someone else, that makes it hard to communicate, and they're like worried about that. And then you could start to build it up and add that third attacker. Questions on that?
That's great. And so the girl, the person who's communicating, picking up, and as the second slider and the communicator, will she pick up the clear through?
Yeah, you pick up the clear through, you get the interception, you work on coming up with a big interception.
And is it a live drill, or kind of is it totally live, or is it kind of walkthrough, or is
totally live, except the attack has to pass up and then cut through. Okay, so that they just are drilled to do this. They start the same way.
Got it.
So totally live, but the attack just can't start dodging from the wing. All right, you're just passing up and dodging through. Let me go to my other one. Oops.
Oh, I wrote it down for you. So then next is 3-on-3.
Okay. 3-on-3 from one side.
Oh, I don't know. I just wrote 3-on-3. I figured you'd remember. 3-on-3.
Same thing. So I think I had two. So 3-on-3, boom, boom. Now you're really getting the person from behind. Okay, so you're going to work on whether the ball starts behind. So here's my D, D, D. All right, so you can start it from either way. The coach can start the ball up here, or you can start it down here. Okay, so it starts up here. Here's your hot side. Here's your two side. Okay, starts down here. You're hot. Okay, let's actually go through this. You can start on this side. I want to go through a different way. So you're going to go always up top, working on sliding from here to here. Okay, 2 and 3. You can add a fourth defender.
Wait, where's the third defender?
You can add a fourth defender right here. Okay, so now it's 3v4. So after they get this down, like hot 2, add the fourth that just slides across the crease. Okay, so they are backside. Make sense?
Yeah, where's the third offensive player, the third X?
Behind the net. 1, 2, 3.
Got it. Okay.
So this is working with behind the net. You can also make this now 3v3 down here. Okay, whether they have the ball over here. This person might be hot. Okay, and this is 2. So now you're working a cross crease slide with a slide down the back.
Hey, Colleen, sorry to interrupt, but the X's that you're drawing behind aren't in the screen from me.
Oh, weird.
Sure for everybody else, so that's why I was asking. So
My
just
bad.
make them look about the low blue dot is clearly in. You could put it right below that. But.
Okay, I'll try again.
There you go.
Can you see that?
Yep, got it.
Okay. So there you go. So that's before it was without this one and up top.
Yeah.
Now you can add the 3 and go 3-on-3 just from this side. Okay, so now if the ball is over here, you'll slide across the crease, or if you step up behind, you double down there, but this person has to get down the back. Does that make sense? So you have your hot slide, your 2 slide. You can move this person over here, okay, and go 3-on-3 from the other side. This way, same thing. So 3-on-3, pretty much in every angle of the field, gets you the hot and the 2 slide. And you can always add that 4th to just be that backside covering the middle as well.
So do you ever think about, you try to work this in all scenarios that you might come across, right?
Exactly. So we would just do 3-on-3, working on the 1st and 2nd slide, whether it be based on what the team we're playing, what we need to work on. A lot of times we just focused on ourselves. But if there were a situation like we're playing 2 righties behind the net, we're always going to force this person up on this side. We might now make this person hot always, and that the 2, you know what I mean? So just making it situational for your team. What was the next drill?
Next one was 4v2.
Okay, you have 4 attackers, 2 behind the net, and 2 right here. Okay, and then you just have 2 defenders. Boom. You can have 2 coaches play like on these attackers behind the net, but they can't go to goal. They're just feeding.
Okay.
So you're basically just working on these 2 feeding, these 2 covering cutters. So it's simple. Like they have to see which way the ball's. If it's over here, they're going to change their body in a different way. It's over here, they'll change their body in a different way because obviously the cutters come at a different angle. These guys are free. They can work the 8 and whatever they want. They're just working together. So you can't just like stray over here and stray over here. They're working to like kind of play a little 2-man game off ball.
And working on your wall.
Yes, exactly. You're working on your wall and your cutters. You can add another attacker. Okay, and now you have another defender. Now you're working on the wall with 2 people on one side and 1 on the other. You can get to 4. All right, once again, that's a tendency. So the other team might always have stacks of 4. So you're going to work on a wall and covering cutters off of that, or they might only do 2 or 3. So start to see your opponent and what you need to work on. But covering cutters was always a difficult thing that we had to get because we're so athletic at Northwestern. We'd be very good at on ball and just like running all over the place that when you got to covering the cutters, it was a harder concept. But then again, also we would be like, all right, well, let's make it harder for them to feed. You know, if covering cutters was not our strong suit, make it so they can't feed as easy.
I want to talk about that for a second. I got a question because it seems like it's really, really hard to put pressure on a feeder without putting your stick up. But as soon as you put your stick up, they can
Right.
get underneath you. And it seems like one of the most difficult things to predicaments for an on-ball defender, because if you don't put your stick up, they can feed all day. If you put your stick up, then then they can beat you. It's really hard.
I know. It's really, really hard with high school because I don't let you like make that much pressure. But I think affecting what they can see with your pressure for me was my bigger thing of like getting my stick on their stick. So having to cover people like Hannah and Nielsen and Shannon Smith in practice every single day was very difficult. You know, great feeders from behind the net, but getting out there and pressuring them, you know, to make it so that they can't always stay like square up, like looking to feed. So they have to constantly be changing their body positioning, like dodging left, right, you know, makes it more difficult to time up that cutter. And, you know, so making it harder for them to just like sit back and feed. I'm not much of like a go right on their stick. I was just like plain and simple basketball defense, you know.
You put pressure on with your feet and your body positioning.
Yeah.
Because if you raise your stick up, you're going to get cooked. And
I never raised my stick. I actually had a tendency to drop my stick just because of I grew up playing basketball.
Yeah.
So I'd always, when I got on them, I'd drop it. But I was more total pressure with my feet. and my arms, and having my arms be on their arms. So it wasn't like but I'm never going to like raise my stick to their stick.
You see it happen all the time though. And it's like,
Oh yeah.
Really the easiest way to beat somebody is just show like you're going to pass, get their stick up in the air. It's like basketball, just faking a shot and having them jump.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, just like, just trying to keep their hips in front of you and just standard basketball defense. What'd you say?
Skeleton 3v3.
Skeleton 3v3. Boom. This just works on the in and out of a pressure defense. Boom. So, literally right there. So the coach will throw the ball in here. You're going to and that person might step out a little bit. On ball pressure. These two people would drop in a little bit. Drop in. Ball moves over here. That person drops in. This person drops in farther. So it's literally just a skeleton of the ball moving, working on stepping up, and right when the ball moves from you being on ball, getting back in. I'd say that is the biggest thing that high school girls don't do. They make amazing on ball pressure. The moment the ball moves, they stay like this close to the person rather than dropping in, because that person's probably going to pass it to another spot and then you drop in farther and farther. So you can just do a 3v3 skeleton for a while and just rotate people in. You're out on ball, you're in, you're hot, you're two. And then this also helps you work on your terminology. You're ball, hot, two. This person's ball, they're hot, they're hot. They got the ball, you're hot, you're two. So just keep working on. You can add a fourth and keep working on. If you add a fourth over like this side per se, now if the ball's over and the ball's over here with you, like here, then this person would have to drop in farther. Make sense?
Yeah. I love this drill, and I like to create some motions too where I might, do a skeleton dodge with the top center girl to her right, and then have the clear through go so that we can practice the timing of sliding off that clear through kind of at the last second, and then get the backside people picking up that cutter, because that's the kind of stuff that happens all the time.
Yeah, and I think you can take this a step up as well, as they can maybe pass and cut through. They just have to always fill these 4 spots so that the main part of the drill is the terminology of the defense. The hot, the ball, the two. Yeah. So they can focus on that. And then obviously when you get into 7-on-7 at the end of your practice or whenever you go live, you can, add more into that. The attacker's moving everywhere.
It's so important to remember that it's a skeleton drill though, because if you just all of a sudden let them play 3-on-3 and you let it go live, it's not that it's a bad drill. It's just that when it's skeleton, you can create the exact look that you want and practice the exact communication of that drill and the exact slide and recovery and double team and helping. So that's a great drill. I love that.
So, all right. So I was going to get to what coaches want to see.
Sweet.
So obviously talking mainly about defense. I'm a club coach now, so it's completely different. But man-to-man defense is like the best way to be seen as a defender in a club setting. If you just sit back in a zone or just a low-pressure defense, you're just not allowing the defenders to make any big plays. They kind of are waiting for the attack to make a mistake. So if you get out on man pressure defense, you're allowing that like athleticism to show, to really, put your defenders that are athletic on a setting for college coaches to be like, oh, wow, I really liked that defender, where they might not see that if they're just sitting back in a low pressure defense and maybe their attacker doesn't even do anything the whole entire game. This at least allows for a lot of rotation, doubles, and, communication is huge. This keeps the game very fast and exciting. As I said in the beginning, club games are like 40 minutes, running clock, no timeouts, and the refs call 8,000 calls. So you really come down to playing like 20 minutes. So if you don't make it fast, and then you're just not letting any ability for your defenders to really do much. High school games, you can obviously have more strategy. You can call timeouts. longer games, you might change up what you're doing. You're never really scouting though in a club setting. You're not like, oh, you might know a couple of top players, but it's more about you're focusing on yourself and your team. So just putting your club in a position to show the best athletes out there, like running on defense and the smartest defenders. This allows like, oh, you can really see that person sent the slide earlier, that person jumped the double, or that backside person communicated to send. This allows just a little bit more ability for coaches to like take notes and catch the eye of those defenders. Going to the next slide. So just the main points that you can go over with your club team, and this goes for if college coaches are coming to your high school team too, is pressure is everything. Like they see a defender go out and pressure, they're like, that person doesn't have any fear. Like they're going out there, they're ready to make a play. Or if you don't go out and pressure, it's not that you're doing anything wrong, you're just not doing anything. And having no fear. If you get beat, don't give up, to my next point. Like get the back check. Go make a run to the backside. You can come up with the interception, you can come up with the ground ball. Getting beat and then keeping your head up and running to make a play is better than not doing anything. Communicate loudly, but for a purpose. This one's huge for me because a lot of people just like scream, I got ball, or like nonsense, like
ball,
I hate that. And so like just a simple I got ball and like the hot and two slides. Just communicate loud with a purpose. Don't just communicate to communicate. So like have, a reasoning behind sending someone or sending the double or getting down the backside or when you have two. So just make sure that you're communicating, because you can hear a lot on the sidelines, and coaches like love to see that you're smart and being like, leading the defense down there. Coming up with a million ground balls. So just being the person to run through the ground ball. Don't just pick at it, run through the ground ball, crash the middle hard, take risks. That goes out to, taking a risk on an interception, take a risk on pressuring out behind, take a risk, with your defensive ability. And then the last thing is take risk with your commitment to the defense. So you don't want to go get beat and then all of a sudden be like, all right, I'm done this pressure defense. Now you're just messing up everything. So stay committed to like that it will work. So keep taking those risks, forget about a last bad play, and just continually stay committed to that defense that you're playing as a team. And those are my main points.
Awesome. Well, Colleen, this was so awesome. I loved it. I learned a ton. I hope everybody else did. I don't know if you've got time, but we can take a few minutes for questions if people have some. But the whole thing was just so well thought out, and the clips were great, and all the cues. Loved it.
Thank you.
People.
Sorry for my technological issues with not making it full screen, but I did the best. I got the clips.
The video was full screen, so that was why it was key.
Yeah. Any questions?
Questions, people? People are typing. I can't see the little bubbles going on, but I think that's what's happening. While we're sitting here and seeing if there's any questions, here comes one. But what's your take on girls playing box lacrosse?
Oh, well, I love it. My girls do it every week. It's amazing for one, physicality, like that's especially for the younger girls. None of my girls want to make that actual pressure on defense. So this allows them like, all right, now I can actually go out there and, you're being way more physical than you would on girls lacrosse, but at least gets them past that point of no contact. Yeah. So right now my younger girls are just like, they like just run around people. Like they never make that contact. So at least this makes the contact. And then attacking wise, it's awesome. Like my older girls last night just crushed it. They were taking it up a notch with Kevin Crowley, and they just literally got the 2-man games. They're getting the slips and really starting to read the defense. So the attackers were starting to read that, oh, now they're always jumping this double, or now they're always, switching early. And then it made the defense be like, oh, now they know we're always jumping the double. We got to, do this a little bit different. So it was really cool in tight settings to make them read each other, and obviously for the skill work with their hands. But I love the pressure and contact for the younger girls.
Awesome. Question here is, does Colleen have a website for more drills and instruction?
I don't, but maybe I'll create one. I can give you, Jamie, if you want to give my email out, or whatever's easier afterwards. Anyone has, it's just Colleen, Colleen at big4lax.com. But if anyone has questions, happy to go through a couple drills.
Yeah, we'll put it out there. And then from Dave Hallows, with girls lacrosse, how do you encourage defenders to make contacts for U13? It's got to be one of the hardest things. You're just not allowed to touch anybody.
Yeah, it's really difficult. It's even, I would even say, like high school. One of my refs last year told me that we weren't allowed to make any contact, which is absurd, and it just goes against every single thing I was teaching them. But I honestly don't yell at them. I let them keep making the contact, and if you foul outside the 12, who cares? So if you make a dumb pressure foul outside the 12, you're at least getting your girl more prepared for the next level than teaching them not to play bad defense. So I had a player last year who's at Duke right now who just always got fouls, like always. She was super physical, but she played great defense. I saw the Duke coach this fall, and she said that she's one of her best freshman defenders. And I was like, that makes me so proud, because I just kept telling her, like, who cares about these fouls? You're going to be fine in college, and she's fine. So keep the pressure, and I would just say my biggest thing is try and make the pressure outside the 12. So who cares if you make a little dumb pressure foul outside the 12? They're not getting an 8-meter.
Another question from Ann Peterson. With the jump slides, any advice for not having disorganization among the defense after they switch players? So maybe in the recovery.
In the recovery. So they jump slide and then they make the pass. Is that the question? Like,
I'm assuming that when you jump slide and they pass their way out of it, how do you get reorganized?
So our rule of thumb was the person that was on ball to start recovers. So your teammate makes a huge play, they slide to you. Now they get to stay home on that girl, and the original person on ball has to go recover and find the open girl. The hardest with like the counterpart, if you're asking about them passing to the middle girl, is just getting that backside and those twos, the two away from the ball, to really see the middle with youth and high school lacrosse is really, really hard, because they're just so focused on covering the girls, so just angling their body to see the middle to come up with those interceptions. But once they get one, it becomes easier.
Cool. All right, Colleen, that was so awesome. I think we're gonna call it a day.
Great.
It's 11:22 East Coast time. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining Colleen and me at the Virtual Lacrosse Summit. And Colleen, I'll be in touch. Thanks again.
Great.
And
Sounds
have
good.
a good rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, bye.